Okay, a call to order the regular meeting of Monday, August 22nd, 2022. I ask that all have not signed in, please do so. Please turn off all cell phones and other electronic devices. And please conduct any private conversations in the hallway or outside. Emergency exits can be found to your right and to your left. This meeting is also live streamed via YouTube with text commenting available to the confidential secretary over here. So certainly any speaker, please come to the podium and speak into the microphone, please. So at this time, if you please join us in a salute to the flag. Okay, we have 4 public hearings. We'll ask our clerk to please read the public hearing notice.
Notice for the public hearing to consider Southgate Hills 1 and 2 to be included in the Town of Victor Drainage Improvement Area, scheduled for the 22nd day of August at 7 p.m. in the Victor Town Hall, was published in the Daily Messenger newspaper on August 7th, and is posted on the signboard of the Town Hall, Victor Village Hall, and our website.
Thank you, Karen. Board members, I know you were provided information previously, maps and whatnot, and Mr. Keith Maynard is with us as well. So at this time, I'll ask if there's any members of the public that care to speak for or against the inclusion of Southgate Hills 1 and 2 into the Victor Drainage Improvement Area. Again, I ask if there's any members of the public care to speak for or against the inclusion of Southgate Hills 1 and 2 into the Town of Victor Drainage Improvement Area. Okay, public hearing number 1 is hereby closed. Moving to number 2, proposed local law to amend Chapter 90 dogs and 148 parks.
Notice of public hearing for the proposed local law to amend Chapters 90 dogs and 148 parks, scheduled for the 22nd day of August 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Victor Town Hall, was published and posted in the Daily Messenger newspaper on August 7th, 2022, and a copy also posted on the signboard of the Town Hall, Victor Village Hall, and our website.
Thank you, Karen. Again, we've had our Victor Hiking Trail, Parks and Rec Department have put some additional signage out there, out on our trails. This is where a lot of the concerns were brought forth. And I know we also have one email from a resident in support of this action as well. So at this time, I'll ask if there's any members of the public care to speak for or against this proposed local law to amend this for the Dogs and Parks chapter. Again, if there's any members of the public care to speak for or against. Hearing no comments, public hearing number 2 is hereby closed. Moving to number 3.
Notice of public hearing for the proposed change to the local law, Chapter 188, Article 1, Senior Citizens Exemption, scheduled for the 22nd day of August at 7 p.m. in the Victor Town Hall, was published and posted in the Daily Messenger newspaper on August 7th, and a copy was also posted on the signboard of the Town Hall, Victor Village Hall, and our website.
Thank you, Karen. And board members, our town assessor is here with us this evening as well, in case you have any questions. At this time, we'll take questions from the public. If there's anyone here to speak for or against this proposed change to the local law, Chapter 188. Again, we'll ask the members of the public here to speak for or against. Hearing no comments, we'll close public hearing number 3, go to public hearing number 4.
Notice of public hearing for the proposed change to the local law, Chapter 188, Article 1, disabled persons with limited income exemption, scheduled for the 22nd day of August at 7 p.m. in the Victor Town Hall, was published and posted in the Daily Messenger newspaper on August 12th, and a copy was also posted on the signboard of the Town Hall, Victor Village Hall, and our website.
Thank you, Karen. At this time, if there's any members of the public care to speak for or against the proposed change to local law, Chapter 188. Again, we ask any members of the public. Hearing no comments. Public hearing number 4 is hereby closed. Board members, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, a couple announcements. Councilman Condon, anticipate his arrival. He is going to be tardy. As we do our last meeting of every month, we tried to announce the upcoming month. What employees will be celebrating birthdays, and we actually have 6 employees celebrating birthdays in the month of September. September 2nd, Mr. Greg Knapp, Casey Page on the 5th. On the 13th, Debbie Trulad and Steve Hendrickson, Tom Polsonelli on the 20th, and Joanne Henry on the 25th. So happy birthday to them. Tomorrow is primary day here in this building from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then for Labor Day, September the 5th, all town facilities will be closed. Moving to approval of meeting minutes for your consideration, the July 25th, and if you so choose, taking the August 8th meeting minutes together, or...
I'd prefer to keep them separate.
Okay, we'll start with July 25th. Comments or questions? If none, motion to approve them.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. And I'm going to abstain as I was necessarily absent.
Okay, thank you. Moving to the August 8th meeting minutes. Entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next item on the agenda, manifest number 16, the town clerk to introduce.
Manifest number 16 for 2022 in the amount of $481,744 has been reviewed by the Victor Town Board with the following accounts charged: general townwide, general outside village, and highway townwide.
Thank you, Karen. We'll start with, as we've always do, try to identify expenditures that are in the range of or exceed $5,000. Payment number 1, B&M International for the September court rents. Next is Bluestone Creek Development for September rent for the Parks and Recreation Program. Payment to Genesee Ford for a new vehicle for the building department. Payment to J.D. Rogers for electrical repairs for the Veterans Memorial. Payment to Integrated Systems, new security cameras, video equipment, and Victor Veterans Memorial Room upgrades. Payment to Lehigh Hanson for multiple road paving projects. Payment to MVP for the September healthcare and employees and retirees. Payment to New York State Comptroller for the July court fines. Payment to Villager Construction, paving equipment and the operator. Total of the above-mentioned expenditures is $426,846.92. Total town expenditures minus the previous mentioned expenditures equals $54,897.08. Board members, any questions on this evening's abstract? Okay, hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the payments thereof.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, privilege of the floor, Mr. Ira Knickerbocker. Ira, I have sent along your letter to the board members. They have had an opportunity. They have a electric version, and then we also provided them with a hard copy.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm not going to read the letter, in case you're curious. So good evening. My name is Ira Knickerbocker. I live at 1702 Murray Road in Victor, New York. My family and I have been residents here, and I've been employed here in Victor for about 50 years. I am the CEO of Victor Insulators, as well as a principal shareholder. Victor is the birthplace of electrical porcelain. Fred Locke, a Victor resident in the second half of the 19th century, recognized a need for better products to insulate electric lines and keep the electric power from being lost when sent over long distances. He came up with much improved insulator designs and materials. He proved his inventions were effective. He patented his inventions. He started manufacturing insulator products in Victor in 1893. Companies all around the world adopted and expanded on the designs and porcelain materials Fred Locke had created. Insulators from alternative materials were invented: glass, epoxies, plastics, silicones, and so forth. But electrical porcelain is still the primary material for insulating the electric grid. You will find our products nationwide on distribution poles and transmission towers carrying a few thousand volts and up to 765,000 volts, and all the standard voltage levels in between. Our products are critical parts of the switches used throughout the country that turn those high voltage electric power systems on and off. The transformers and the high voltage circuit breakers that protect the circuits require insulators. The New York City MTA uses thousands of our porcelain insulators. Little thing about international competition. Over 40 years ago, lower cost imports have taken the lion's share of the insulator market, with China being the largest supplier. Almost all of the 20 or so factories in North America have closed. Although we do import some insulators to remain competitive with certain products, our business is centered right here in Victor on Maple Avenue. This is where designs are created, products are manufactured, mechanical, electrical tests are performed, and products are shipped. This is where the technical, manufacturing, marketing, accounting, supply chain management, and other business expertise reside. The majority of our sales are products made in our factory right here. We have our own in-house mechanical and high voltage test facility. Our quality system is ISO certified. Our customers have faith in our products and our ability to meet their requirements. Our company is growing. The demand for high voltage insulators made in the United States is very strong. For most products, we are the only domestic choice. We pay competitive wages and provide an excellent package of benefits. Currently have 65 employees, and we are adding more. I expect we'll add another 15 by year end. So why am I here? We need our materials delivered by rail. We tried the trucking solution proposed and attempted by the railroad. It is a failure on many levels. It is unsafe environmentally. It is an accident waiting to happen at the transload facility near Geneva. There is a very real risk of contamination of a raw material, which will render it unusable. It takes 3 times the labor to unload 4 truckloads at our factory than it would have if that one rail car load had been simply delivered by rail. Railroad's offer is limited to 6 rail cars per year for 1 year, maybe 2. We really have no commitment from the railroad. Transloading from rail hopper cars to tanker trucks is expensive. The added transportation cost of delivering 1 rail car to our factory is about $16,000. The railroad company will not pay for more than 6 cars per year, and maybe for only 1 year. 40 to 80 cars per year used to be normal. We even had a year with over 140 cars. I expect we will get back toward 40 hopper cars. Many more rail cars could be delivered if we are allowed to receive ocean container deliveries by rail. The trucking and transloading solution in lieu of rail service simply doesn't work. I'm also here tonight to ask the town and village leadership to reconsider your position regarding Ontario County and specifically Victor's future need for rail transportation. When petroleum fuels are scarce and very expensive, as was the case 100-plus years ago, we will turn back to electricity for mass transit and freight. EV cars and tractor trailers with battery packs might be okay around town, but for long-distance commuters and for long-haul freight, batteries are impractical. Overhead electric power for transportation exists all around the world and is proven technology. Virtually all of it runs on rails, and it all requires insulators. Our company will be here when that happens. One more thing. The final decision maker on whether we have rail service or not is the United States Surface Transportation Board, not any government entity at the state or local level. There are procedures in place to oversee any potential abandonment of rail services or lines, and rail service cannot be just discontinued without following the required procedures and obtaining the necessary approvals. At this time, it is important to note that no application has been filed to discontinue or abandon rail service in Victor, New York. As such, the town should not prematurely pursue any plans that are contingent on that rail removal. Thank you.
Okay, moving to public comments and concerns. An opportunity for members of the public to address the town board.
So I'm new at this, so you'll bear with me, okay? The gentleman gave his name and address, so I guess I need to do that too.
Please.
Diane Robbins, 644 Championship Drive in Victor. And what I have to talk about has something to do with the rails and Victor Insulators and the decision that the town is planning on making regarding the connectivity project. Now, I've only lived in the town a little over a year, but I keep hearing about the connectivity project, so I decided to get out there and try and get some information. And if the connectivity project goes ahead, I was at the meeting where they had all the pictures and the diagrams and everything up. It will be a probable loss of Victor Insulators, which is really a shame. Plus, it'll be a big tax bill for the residents of the village and town. So, as I understand things correctly, if I understand things correctly, is the Finger Lakes Railway that is supposed to provide the service, which they don't want to do anymore because it's unprofitable. Ontario County owns the land, the tracks, and related materials, so the county has to agree whether the tracks can be abandoned and taken up. So Finger Lakes Railway and the county need to get approval from the Federal Surface Transportation Board, as Mr. Knickerbocker said. In the meantime, it appears like everybody is sitting on their hands instead of applying for grants that are available for improving railroads that would help with the cost of the repair and the maintenance of the line. And this is money that will be very much needed if the Surface Transportation Board rules that the rails stay. The town plan, Phase 1, cannot be instituted at all until, as Mr. Knickerbocker said, you get a ruling from the Surface Transportation Board. Based on the estimated costs, the start of Phase 1 might not be feasible money-wise until the town applies for and gets grants to offset the expense. And if without the grants, I see this project going nowhere. I also understand that there's an environmental impact study being done, and that it's supposed to be finished at the end of August. Well, we're almost there. So I was kind of wondering if the study was done, and if it was, is it available for the public? Is it going to be provided to the public in time for the public to review it, to make comments before the September meeting and any decisions are made? So I started thinking about it, and I'm thinking, well, what kind of decision can be made in September? Because you can't rip up the rails unless go ahead with any of the projects or anything until you hear back from the Surface Transportation Board. So the only thing that I see is that the town can move forward. I understand the planning that was done, so you could move forward, apply for grants for the project, and see what you get. I don't see how anything associated with this project can move forward until the ruling. And if the Surface Transportation Board rules that the rails stay, Victor Insulator thankfully stays. And it seems like a lot of money spent on developing this plan was a waste of taxpayer money. Thank you.
Any other members of the, feel free, sir.
I'm here in support of Mr. Knickerbocker. My name's Henry Pink. I live at 1076 Carrington Way. And as this lady just mentioned, she's been here a short time. I've been here 3 years, and I've enjoyed living in Victor. But I also I've worked for a large corporation, and I was also a compliance officer during my tenure. But in terms of small business and what's happening here in our country, I got to stand up for Mr. Knickerbocker and all his employees. If we don't stand up and say, we need you, and our generation, my children, your children, and so coming, I don't want to be sending more jobs to China. I'm sorry. I watched our corporation send all our jobs over there. So it's high time that everyone stands up and says, we need small business. Every one of these people in this community support us, and we support them by doing business with them. Without them, we won't grow, we won't prosper. So I don't have the knowledge of what's going on here with this connectivity study, but if we're going to make a major change, I think the taxpayers ought to have a voice in it in terms of what's going to go forward, rather than, let's say the board makes a decision and moves forward. We need small business. We need to support them in every way that we can. And like I said, I'm not knowledgeable of as you were, but Mr. Knickerbocker, we support you. And I'm here tonight because I read about it and I said, we need you. We can't lose you. So I'm here to make that statement, and if there's needed support, I'd be right behind you. So that's what I want to say to the board.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
Hi, I'm Cheryl Jones Richter. I live at 125 Church Street here in Victor. Have been a Victor resident for about 60 years, minus a few for college. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if they'll be answered tonight or just put out there. As was mentioned in terms of the question around the environmental report as to when that would be completed. I would also ask, when will the feasibility report be completed? That was, again, I think expected in August prior to the September review, and have not seen anything published around that. So would ask about when that would be available as well. I think the point was made by Diane in terms of the question regarding the county being owning the railroad right-of-way and them needing to be involved in the decision of the abandonment of the railroad with Finger Lakes, and obviously the Surface Transportation Board as well. My other, I guess, question and comment is the role of the Local Development Corporation. It's my understanding that the town's LDC their role is to support economic development in our community, an excellent one and an important one. My question is, how is the LDC helping to support economic development in terms of sustaining one of our largest Victor businesses with Victor Insulator? For example, has LDC reached out to other businesses in Victor to see whether they could be encouraged to support rail business here in Victor, to increase the rail business? Has any of that been done by the LDC? In addition, there was a proposal and recommendation made to the LDC in terms of potential tourism business here with rail bikes, was brought forward and was asked for review earlier this year and was turned down, didn't have the opportunity to even raise that. I don't know if you're aware, but in Penn Yan, outside Penn Yan, middle of nowhere, there is a small local business that rents rail bikes. Every weekend, they sell out, they bring significant business to that area, and would be, again, an opportunity for tourism and people to come into Victor that might not come in elsewhere. Again, if the rails are torn up, that's gone. So I guess I would just like to, again, reiterate my support for ensuring that the town really considers strongly the concern in terms of tearing up the rails. In addition, I don't know if there are other opportunities that have been considered other than just this parallel road to Main Street that's been proposed. Currently, Victor residents find other ways, if you're not going to be going someplace in the middle of the village, find ways around, whether it's down 251 Cork Road, or for those of us that live elsewhere, over to Aldrich Road, et cetera. That's fine. If I need to go downtown to hit my hairdresser or whatever, I go downtown. Traffic is not that much of an issue. I think it was raised in the prior meeting. It's maybe a 5-minute wait if you are going through the town. So in terms of the significant $17 million expenditure that's being proposed for this parallel road to Main Street, it doesn't seem to be economically worthwhile, especially when you weigh it off with the impact that it will have on one of our strong local businesses. Thank you.
So I am going to answer a number of your questions. The feasibility and environmental study, probably I would anticipate 30 to 45 days. That should be, I think the next step is probably to present it to the village and town board. In 2017, the village and town hired T.Y. Lin to do a study, and in it, they came back with, they call it the Route 96 Corridor, Transformational Corridor Strategic Plan. Priority number one was this potential road between Route 251 and to the spur, the railroad spur that goes to Victor Insulator. That intent has not changed. Unfortunately, I don't have a copy for everyone, but certainly more than willing to pass it around. And from day one, it showed hike and bike, 2 lanes of traffic, and on the left side, which we would have to move at taxpayer expense, the railroad, the existing tracks, so we could have rail. Well, it was the railroad who said, we no longer use it. Storing cars with profanity on it is not a good use of the rail. And I know the mayor received numerous phone calls, as well as I did. We have spoken to E-Waste, the owners at E-Waste. They are 100% committed to tractor-trailer service, and they have no use for the rail. Let's see. The railroad, again, up to the spur, they can still provide transportation. It appears that it's the railroad has made the decision, and maybe they haven't publicly said that. I think I know they are bringing it transloading, and I know Ira's not happy with that. Right now, that's what they're offering. I guess my question would be, if the town and village board tonight said we're not going to put this road in, would you have rail service tomorrow?
They're not going to move. They have a reward if they don't.
They're not going to give you rail service. If we say we're abandoning it today, it's a bad idea, you don't get rail tomorrow. So our decision in this is really not as a bearing whatsoever.
It's the Surface Transportation Board, they have very,
Oh, yeah, it'll be their decision at the end of the day.
yes, they have very serious.
I think right now you have the railroad having conversations with the county on the utilization of some of that rail that's in that area that I just identified. Yep. That's all we want. Nothing's changed. Your spur to Route 251. They make a decision east of here, that's their decision. We're not going to put a road behind those residents on East Main there.
Isn't that phase 3?
Yes, doesn't.
Phase 3, and again,
You can say what you want.
Phase 3 of the plan includes part of the plan.
Yep. Phase 1 and 2 is something I've supported from day one, and I don't want to speak for this board. I'm not a member of that committee who put Phase 3. So Phase 3, what does it say? It says a municipal road and possibly hiking and biking trails. Why a municipal road? There's a village, am I speaking? Joel, can I speak? You don't object to that, do you? I don't. Thank you, I feel blessed. There's a municipal road identified, potentially. The town has recently purchased in the last 3 years, property over on Brace Road to go with other land on Brace Road. We do need a new highway department at some point. The village has a DPW, they have the sewer treatment plant there. It's not our intention to hook up to the roundabout, believe me. That ship sailed many, many years ago. If we did any type of road, it would go over to Brace Road, potentially for sewer treatment plant in the village and potentially a highway building for the town. And the rest would be trails. But again, that's up to the transportation board to decide. They may decide we're not going to abandon any of it. And that's between the railroad, the government. I'll be honest, I don't think you got a government issue here. You have a rail service or lack of service.
I don't disagree.
And as far as economic development, I think previously you've had some support from the county. The LDC, they have some various loans that they give out, and as far as refurbishing the rails and stuff like that, I got to be honest, with only one customer, I don't think that's a good spend for this town. That's my feeling. Are there any other members of the, Ira, if you care to address any comments I made, I'll be fair to you.
The railroad's position is there is absolutely no money, federal money, state money available to do.
Ira, you are going to have to,
You have to
she
go to the
won't,
microphone.
she won't be able to catch up on the public.
Okay, the railroad's position, first of all, they get a reward if the rails are picked up. They got many, many, many dollars worth of very high-strength rail they can pick up from here to Shortsville. If they do that, they avoid a huge, and I'm talking about very huge, many millions of dollars of expense by not having to buy their own rails. They just pick it up. So they have a very strong economic reason not to want to provide rail service and get this to go away because they get a reward at the end of it. Second piece is they have said emphatically that there is no money available for fixing the railroad. Zero. And what happens in the last couple of months? Big announcement. Livonia Ave and Lakeville Railroad gets $4 million. It's just announced. And they're saying they can't get a darn thing. There's just no money available. Sorry, I don't believe it. So if they don't want to do it, we'll have to see whether, A, the Surface Transportation Board forces them to do it, and they certainly have the ability to do that with dollars and cents, or somebody else is going to have to run a railroad. Okay, that's about where it ends up. Thanks.
Are there any other members of the public care to speak for? The public hearing closed. Public comment.
Could I add
Yes.
something? So, this is, nobody in this room, nobody on this board wants to see anything happen to force Victor Insulator out of business. It's never been, never will be. We're all for whatever it takes to keep you there. This connectivity management was something, and your question about LDC, yes, the LDC's been, we cannot get a grant for anything that we don't own. If we don't own it, you can't apply for a grant. A grant in this case would come from the county, not from one town that owns 4.5 miles by 120 feet of ground. They've come to us and said, our plan is to potentially abandon this. Once we abandon it, then you have a decision to make on what you want to do with it. Our portion of it, like Jack said, the 251 from the village, in this access management plan. Now, the access management plan is for the whole village and the whole town, not just somebody ripping up a set of railroad tracks and putting a piece of road in. It's for the entire town, for future development, for business, for whatever we choose to put in, or business wants to attract businesses to this town in whatever way. And that's what we can do. I've been on committees involving Route 96 since the late 80s in this town. And the number one problem that people expressed was traffic on Route 96. 30-some years that I've been, and 20-some years I've been involved in committees on the town, and that is the number one thing. So we got a grant to get a Route 96 corridor project plan, where they come and they look at your whole footprint, and they give you ideas as to what you can and can't do and where you can do it. And basically, we've got Route 96 with high slopes on one side and wetlands on the other, and we're limited. A railroad spur that comes in, and they said if this is abandoned, then that could be years. That could be 2 years, 1 year. Some of us might not be on this board, but when that happens, this access management is what we're going to do for that piece of land. Not to harm Victor Insulator in any way. It's what's good for the village and for the town for the future. We didn't get involved in this access management plan solely to do something with a railroad bed that goes to 251. That's the furthest from what we want. I've been in this town, like Joel, Randy, Megan, Gary, everybody that's in here. My bus used to have to stop at the bottom of the hill for the Insulator employees to cross and work. I love seeing it. I love it there. I saw it before they put the additions onto it. It's part of the town. We all want it to be here. And when I go around town, it's like people think that we're trying to put the Insulator out of business, and that's the furthest from what we want. This plan that you're referring to is not a plan to build a road where we want to rip the tracks out. That's not it. What they're saying is there's about 4.5 miles that goes from the Farmington line to 251, and if we do it, we're going to abandon it, and you can do with it what you want. They don't want the liability. There's also 1, 2, 3, I think there's 4, Joel can correct me, bridges that it crosses that they don't want the liability. They have said that they don't want passengers. You cannot take passengers on their rail. It's 5 miles an hour, and to bring those 8 loads a year in 5 miles an hour to bring it in, and they don't want that. It's not us that doesn't want it. That's what they've said. We're trying to make something out of what somebody's given us, and we don't know when it's going to happen any more than you do. We've invited a gentleman from Finger Lakes Railroad. He was supposed to come to Gary's meeting the other night, and he was supposed to come to this meeting, and they're obviously not here. I sympathize with every single thing that you people are saying. I love it. I love the history of the town. I love the history of the Insulator, but our hands, we have really no skin in the game on this thing. I wish we did. We can't apply for a grant for something we don't own, and there would be at least 4 other towns that have to be involved in the same abandonment process that we have for it ever to work. The town of Farmington is presented with the same thing. That goes from, Route 96 down by Wade's and goes all the way to the Manchester town line. And Manchester has a leg that they're looking at. They're talking about the whole thing, not just our little 4.5 miles. So, I just get this feeling from all this, and it really bothers me because I've got so much investment in this town that people are making it sound like that we're trying to put somebody out of business to build a road that's going to cost a bunch of money. And that's not what we've proposed. What they've said is it's going to be here. You're paying us to tell you what could be done with it should this happen. We're not, anybody on this board is not proposing we want to rip this out. That's not what we're proposing. And nothing, like you said, there's no grants, no nothing, no actions can be taken until that ever happens. If they do it tomorrow or 2 years from now, we're stuck here with our hands tied behind our backs just like you are, no matter what that process may be. We're in a bind here, and I'd like to give you a positive answer. We'd like to give you a positive answer, but we can't. There's no place that we can go right now that's different than anything we've told you, because we're in the same holding pattern that everybody in this room is. But one thing is for sure, we're not in any way, any shape or form attempting to discontinue anything that would put harm on Victor Insulator. I'm in a business that involves trucking, and our trucking cost with 10 locations has gone up $350,000 a year increase over the last year and a half. So I know about trucking and transportation increases, and I wish there was a better answer, but know, this may never happen this year that they're saying they may give Iyer or may not give them. It, you know, they may discontinue that, and the tracks may sit there for another period of time after that until they decide what they're going to do. But we do feel pretty sure that they're going to discontinue whether they rip up the tracks or not. So, I mean, I truly sympathize with everything you're saying, but there's nothing that we can do until they do something. Really, I mean, that's it.
If you could come to the podium, they don't, unfortunately, those listening at home won't catch it without the microphone.
First question is, where is the spur? I'm just ignorant about the spur that you talked about.
Oh, the spur.
Yeah.
Coming from the east, there's a spur that actually goes back to Victor Insulator. It's right after.
Oh, the circle part that goes around to the
Right after
insulator.
Maple Avenue,
Okay.
there's a little white building,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
there's a brown one, right, I think it's right
Right.
after that.
Okay, second question is, who hired the company to do the connectivity project?
On this connectivity,
Yes,
it was the town,
okay.
possibly the village, and not to disrespect the mayor.
Town hired the company to,
Do a feasibility study, and also part of that would be the environmental study as well. All
Okay.
part of the steps that would be needed.
all right. As long as I'm up here, I prepared something. I think a lot of this has been said before, but I'll just have my say.
Just say your name and address.
Megan Jones. I live at 1340 School Road, and I've lived on East Main Street for 15 years as a kid, and then School Road for 39 years. So we do get the traffic that comes by, you know, going south off of Main Street. So, and I'm pretty familiar with the traffic flow on East Main Street from living there, and the trains that run behind it are used to. I just had 5 points. The first one is, I'm calling it another Main Street, and I did see the 3 proposals for the 3 sections, and I just can't imagine the people on Main Street with Main Street in front and another Main Street behind them. I think that would just kind of ruin East Main. I think it would be much more, Victor should be much more interested in keeping and forming and fixing the village tracks. Now, I understand from what I'm hearing that it's not Victor's decision to make. And the Victor Insulator, I do understand, would possibly close, most likely close, if they took that part, that spur, away. And I think that'd be a big shame, as I guess all of you do too. So, and the last point is about, and I haven't heard about this, the horrible disruptive construction in our small village and the millions of dollars. To what end? And I just don't understand how this connectivity idea would fix the traffic in Victor. It would just be doubled. So,
The one, while you're up there, Megan, I can, from just being part of that study in the past, before I was ever on this board, with the Route 96 studies, feasibility studies that they've done in the past, they've determined at that time that it was, I don't remember the exact numbers, don't quote me, 79 to 83% of the traffic per day going through Victor were not people in Victor. There was 80% of the people traveling through town were from out of town, going through our town. If we did anything at all, attempted to do anything, if we did it, and we haven't said we're going to do it, an access road, a parallel road, in their study, not ours, would say that that would benefit the people that are in the town, not the 80% of the people going through our town. It was to take,
don't you think the 80% would still go through the town?
they
on the
still will,
side?
but it was
Yeah.
for the people within the town. It's never gonna, you're not gonna lessen the number of cars a day, in their words, that are going through the town. Anything off of
Right.
Main Street that would promote business, promote access to another area, promote anything within the town, and for people in town, everybody always wanted a walkable community. They presented that every single time for every committee that I've ever been on. That was trying to go along with what people had asked for and requested in the past. You get a study to try and
Okay.
people take them or people don't take them, but it was an attempt to resolve what we thought were people were asking for.
Do you still think it would?
In my own mind, I do. I think it would
Do?
give retail off of 96. We know retail's struggling I think over time, it would be nice. But like I said, if they pull the rails up, there's a plot of land there, and they're telling you to do something with it. So I think we'd be stupid not to do something. That's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. Wiley, we could say no. We could say, keep it. Put your signs up. Nobody can walk on it. Nobody can do anything. We could turn them down if we wanted to, which that would be the worst thing we could ever do. But something needs to be done with it. And if they do pull it up, if they do, what are you going to do with land that private ownership and the village own on either side that still goes through there, that there's a liability factor and it just sits there, just drive it around it forever? You should incorporate it somehow,
Could be another park?
whatever, but you still have
Something,
to take ownership
yeah.
of it to do that. So.
Can I ask another question? What's going to be happening on a September 22nd meeting? Is there some decision that's going to be made at that meeting about this first phase?
What was the date again? I'm sorry.
September 20, is that your next meeting?
I don't know. I got to be honest, I don't recall
Okay.
the timeline. I know the
Is that
committee's
on the
meeting later
agenda?
this month. and
Okay.
They'll go to the clerk's office to get on the agenda. I don't think,
Is there going to be a decision made on that first phase?
yeah.
Okay, well, whenever it is. My question is
Mr.
there...
Mayor.
Gary.
As far as I know right now, it looks like the committee, I'm on the committee, will get the report on the public input from July 13th on the 30th of this month.
Okay,
And then sometime in September, I believe, Jack, they're going to come to your board, or it's either that or early October, and come to the town board and probably to the village board to give a final report.
okay, so there's no...
The committee looks at all the input from July 13th, combined with the survey that was done in January of this year, and any other feedback that's come through, meetings like this. We'll look at all that, and then incorporate those thoughts into the plan and make a decision on what we recommend as a committee to the town board.
When is that decision again?
So it's in September or October.
Okay,
I don't have the date in my mind.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
sorry.
it's been finalized as far as
okay, but it's coming up. That's when it's going to be decided on the first phase.
That's when we would make a recommendation as a committee
Recommendation, okay,
for the town board to make a decision
okay.
on whether they want to accept that decision or not, whether they want to accept that recommendation.
So
You
the
see it
village-
that way, Jack?
Yeah,
You see it that way?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So we meet the second and fourth Monday of every month, and that would be September, October.
okay,
And the village board will, I'll be talking to our board, we'll be talking about the plan. Ultimately, it is the town's decision. They hired, them to do the plan.
right, right.
But they're certainly listening to our input, and we're going to give them our input.
Thank you.
Ms. Rayburn, why don't you
Come on up to
here?
the microphone, Kath.
Just for clarification. So there's two things. Kathy Rayburn, Town of Victor, Economic Development. There's two things going on. Adams Street, it's a feasibility study, just a study, giving us concept level plans along with cost estimates. It has morphed into, obviously, connecting, or all in one with the connectivity plan, because it has a lot to do with the connectivity plan. But there's two things going on. And as far as it's not going to come to the town board or the village board to build the road. It's the study, the feasibility study, the environmental that was being asked about. And as far as dates, I don't know that there's a concrete date set for that to happen at the town board. And especially with some of the comments coming in, I think the committee is meeting on August 30th is the next committee meeting to look at all of that information and see where the consultant is with that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You look like you had another question.
No, I just,
Every time he talks, it costs money, so don't ask him any questions.
why I'm sitting quietly.
Thank you.
I'll turn off my microphone.
Thank you, even better.
Yes, yes.
Just very brief, but what I hear a lot of, and Mr. Governor, can't read your last name, Mike, if I may. You alluded to having to have plans going forward. I think this is what the study that was done is like, what can we do? What should the town do if these rails get torn up? Okay, and this is how the town should move, a suggestion of how the town should move forward. I understand no firm decision's been made. What I don't hear is like, well, what is the town going to do if the Surface Transportation Board says those rails stay? And Finger Lakes Railroad has to fix them, or whatever it is that the federal government can do, or whatever. So I only hear plans going one way, and that will cost Mr. Knickerbocker his business, and I don't hear the other side. So I don't know if anything's been done along those lines, oh darn, we're gonna have to work with the railroad, we're gonna have to keep those lines, we're not gonna be able to tear them up and stuff. What's the plan? So that's my comment.
Thank you. I think if that was the plan, and with no other business, e-waste is the only business on that Route 251, I don't think anyone wants to see empty railroad cars parked there.
I understand, but from what I understand, and I hear it in Mr. Knickerbocker too, it's none of our decisions. We have to sit and wait for the Surface Transportation Board to do something, to rule which way it's gonna go. And if they say the tracks stay, yeah, we're gonna have to look at vulgar old railroad cars, but is there a choice at that point?
Probably go back to what was originally identified in that corridor study and go and build the 2 lanes with the bike lane as well as a track for their train use. In my opinion, that would be, we would fight, like, with that board, if it's possible, just to say, what's the value? I mean, they didn't have service before, but that would be the plan, to go back, in my own opinion.
But the environmental impact statement could be a thorn in that plan.
Yeah, it could be. Any red flags come about that, any form of contamination that, we want no part of that, I'm sure the county wants no part of that, because they currently own that as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, thanks for your questions.
You have to come to the microphone.
Paul Johnson.
Yep.
I live down on Murray Road. I've lived in the town for 13 years. Why, I understand that they were possibly thinking of trying to do rail biking. Why couldn't we entertain an idea like that, and at least that would use what we have at this point and possibly help Victor Insulator? Does that make any sense?
For one thing for sure now is that the county has, or the Finger Lakes Rail has said no personal people can be on it. They can't use it for that. We can't carry people. We can't.
Well, if they're not using it and the county owns it, to me, that would be up to the county.
And I did go down when Joel came to the LDC meeting, and I did go down to Penn Yan when I was down there, and I looked at what they had down there. It's pretty neat.
If they're making money doing it.
They got a grant down there, a small one of some kind, because they had tracks that they could use, and they could, Joel can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had time periods that they could utilize it and people could be on it.
Sure.
But it's not the only thing, it's not the only moneymaker that keeps the rail there.
Right, but it would be a start.
Yeah, but we can't give them permission to run bikes on it.
Right, but
They
I
have to
would
get
think
permission to
that-
do it, and if they said yes or they said no, we really don't have any say in it, but it was neat. I went down and looked because Joel came to the LDC meeting, and he brought it up down there, and there was a guest from there down there, and it's pretty neat, but I don't think, they would still have to go to Finger Lakes to get permission to even do it, so.
Right.
And then somebody would have to start up
Right.
some sort of business to do it, have to buy it, and I don't know if you lease time, Joel would know if you lease time or how you do it, but I don't know what the
Don't
answer
know,
is.
but I thought it was an idea to at least,
It's pretty neat, but it takes somebody who wants to invest some money in some sort of an infrastructure set up with what they do and where they go and have a place to go with them and,
yeah,
um,
thought it was an idea. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Can I say something, please?
Certainly. To the microphone, please.
Thanks for letting me the opportunity to speak this evening. Open up my notes here. Yes, dear. This beautiful woman over here is my wife of 45 years. We celebrated last weekend.
Congratulations.
She keeps me around, keeps me on track. Yes, so I'm Joel Richter. I live at 125 Church Street here in the village. Grew up on the apple farm up on the hill and been a resident of this town for 60 years. I'm also president of the Friends of the Railroad here in Victor. Have been involved with the organization since we began in 2008. For those who are new to the area, the Friends of the Railroad in Victor runs family train rides and excursions, and we've been doing that for more than a decade. We are part, our rides, activities, and other railroad events are part of a larger nationwide Heritage Rail Alliance, which we are members, and we are a national tourism draw for wherever we operate. Victor being our primary location. Our mission is preservation, operation, and education to present a living history of the railroads here in Victor and the area, and accordingly, the story of the folks who used them and relied on them. Victor Insulators. Many here will remember some of the trips that we've run in the past. Throw Mama on the train for Mother's Day, Blues and Brews on the rails, the Rail Fests, and thank you, Kathy, for helping us get those started for the 3 years we ran them. And our most popular Santa trains, which sell out every year. In fact, all of our trains, all of our excursions sell out. To date, we have run more than 16,000 people. That's a lot of economic impact. Tourists coming into town. 25% of our riders are local, 75% are from out of town, outside the zip code. That's how we track, is by zip codes, since 2008. For the past 2 years, 20 and 21, we were unable to run any train because of COVID-19. So instead, we provided walking tours here in the village for free. So people could learn, could see, and experience a little slice of our local railroad history. And we had a bunch of people who participated. I see a number of folks in the audience who participated in those walks, learned a lot. I do have to thank everyone who has ever been on a walk with us recently or on one of our rides. The important thing is Victor's a railroad town. If you think about it, we had 3 railroads run through this village and this town. Beginning in 1840, we were one of the first towns and villages to have a railroad in this country. We were high on that list. The canal went to Fairport and Pittsford, and so the townspeople got together and encouraged the railroad to come through, and they did it by subscription. And Fisher's, Charles Fisher, gave them a station and provided them with rails and wood ties. Town of Victor paid a subscription, got the town folks together, and got them to come around. That's why the New York Central line, this Auburn line, goes from hither to yon, all over the countryside. Most important part is that for more than 120 years, customers of Victor Insulators, both here and around the globe, rely daily on their products. We rely daily on their products. That's what keeps our electric on. Go up by the mall and those high tension lines up there, let's wonder where they came from. Probably out of this plant. So I have a couple of questions. And the first one's probably the most poignant one, so I'll skip right through the rest. Will the town of Victor provide a public statement now not to pull up the rail and request the county to do the same? Thank you.
This is Cheryl. One of the concerns, you've said that their businesses won't commit to rail service. Well, for quite a few years, as you mentioned, there's been a plan on the books to pull up the rails and put this road in. Why would a business that's not currently using rail business take that risk to go out and pursue rail, thinking that Town of Victor is going to put this road in and pull up this rail? That's one of the reasons why looking for a clear statement from the town, potentially from the town to the county, to say we support rail service in Victor, would, because otherwise, why would these businesses commit to it? We've had some conversations with them, and they've said, well, they're looking to pull it up. Why would I want to do that? So that is one of the, in terms of Joel's question, will the town provide that public statement of support for rail service and for not abandonment of the rails, needs to go on the books so that the local businesses will in fact consider that as an option. Thanks.
Any other public comment? Okay.
Randy Jones, School Road, Victor. I just like a little clarification on the connectivity project. I've heard a little bit about 3 phases. Tonight, I've only heard about 1 phase. I just would like a little more information on the 3 phases and maybe some opinion from the board on, if phase 1 were to go through, what happens with phase 2, what happens with phase 3? Is that going to help with the traffic issue?
Yeah, I think phases 1 and 2 go up to the spur. Phase 1 is somewhere between, stops maybe around Hoffman's Liquor, and I may be wrong. And then phase 3 was heading east.
To where?
Wherever the committee comes up with, but again, I am non-supportive of phase 3.
Okay, I thought they...
Not going to go to the roundabout by any means.
I thought they'd done a whole plan on phase 3 also going.
No plans that I have for it whatsoever. The spur to 251, that's my only, what I'm desiring.
Okay.
Any other public comments? Okay, moving to reports of town officials. In your packet, you have a report from Highway Superintendent, your town historian, IT, Parks and Recreation, Planning and Building, our town clerk, and does our town clerk have anything else she wants to add? Okay, you have provided a letter from the president of the Finger Lakes Connection, Valerie Knobloch. Recognize the food cupboards. Thank you to the town employees. And also as the Victor Fire Department and Victor Traffic Report from the Sheriff's Department. And for myself, I do have a few items. Board members, at your place setting, I left you the Farmington Victor ambulance report for the month of July. A Sid Partington concert series has ended, very successful. Again, we want to thank our Parks and Rec staff, but certainly most importantly, we want to thank the sponsors for their support of this as well. And next item was the August comment card. Number of compliments from our residents to the clerk's office, Highway, Parks and Rec. September 1st, myself, Director of Finance, and I have registered for a Zoom meeting titled Doing More with Less. Again, these are in preparation for the town budget for 2023. And again, this would be through the Association of Towns. And board members, I did share with you, I think, through an email, that notification from the New York State Department of Taxation and Finance, Office of Real Property Tax Services, that Marlene Vernon is now a state certified assessor, so congratulations to you, Marlene. And let's see. That's all I have. Board members, do you have any committees you care to report on?
I got a couple things, Jack.
Yes.
First of all, for public knowledge, tomorrow's planning board meeting will be virtual only because this room is being used for primary voting day. So it'll be only online available, just so you know, for planning board tomorrow. Additionally, the project out front, the Veterans Memorial Garden, has reached kind of a stopping point for this season, so to speak. I want to thank John Turner and the crew the work that they did out front, Gary. They did a great job getting it, set up the way that we wanted it to. Again, our electrician did a great job getting everything relit. It was a pretty big job. We tore up a bunch of old conduit that was rotted, electric lights that were out or rusting away, and so that whole plaza's been redone. It looks really good, but it's not complete yet. The monument will be placed on another granite marker, so it's going to actually be raised up higher, but that marker unfortunately is not available yet due to some supply chain issues. So as the winter weather hits, it'll be as you see it today. We did make the decision to put up one of the flagpoles, which is the American flag, of course, in front of the building. The secondary flagpole will go up once the project's completed, and the reason for that is to be a little bit efficient. We'll leave the state flag down for now, but that'll allow them to make the swing when they have to remove the monument again without having the village do any additional work. So, but great job by the village guys. Thank them. Mark, your guys, anybody that helped with the flagpole release and whatever. It was a bigger project, obviously, as many of you can imagine. Once you start digging underground, you may find some things you didn't plan on finding. That was the case here, but they all did a great job in getting that to the point it is now, and we look forward to completing that project in the spring.
Councilman Kohovic, so we could envision additional lights and smaller flags as well?
Yes, there will be some additional. We're going to save that for like a surprise. How's that?
Okay, thank you for the update. Any other board members' updates?
I have one quick comment, Supervisor. Mr. Years, I was down on Strong Road the other day, unrelated to anything work-related, and a gal came out of her home, and I was chatting with her about something separate on the side of the road, and she came out of her home, and I had identified that I work with the town. I'm one of the liaisons to the highway department. And the first thing out of her mouth was, you tell every one of those guys down there that they do one hell of a job keeping these roads clean in the wintertime. So we're months removed from winter service, and she still remembers it. And she did ask that I pass that along. So, and I would tend to agree, and I know that comment gets echoed pretty frequently. So
Thank you.
tell the guys, please.
I will.
And then Supervisor, I just wanted to mention with the Climate Board Victor event coming up on September 3rd, not necessarily to discuss that event, but to just highlight, at least from maybe my own personal experience. I'm not a social media user. I don't have a Facebook account, but certainly with advertising and promoting this event, I've been certainly more in tune with noting the comments and watching kind of the work on the backside that it takes to coordinate some of these types of large events for the town. So I just wanted to recognize, and of course she stepped out, but Kathy Rayburn and Gina Coe from Economic Development, and as well as Susie Mandrino. really keeping, and certainly we see in our report, for example, for Susie, that there's a long list of things that get taken care of each month, but to see that firsthand, it is certainly a very active effort and something that requires a lot of attention to detail, so I just wanted to highlight that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your leadership on this, and I know you've put a lot of time and effort into it, so hopefully, fingers
mentioning-
crossed, good weather.
Mentioning large events, Kathy, again, John Turner from the Village, the Victor Music Festival, what a great turnout it was. Everybody had a great time that I talked to. There were a lot of people represented. I just thought it was really a great event. It was well-run, well-organized. I saw John towards the end of the night, and he looked pretty spent. He had run around all day long with that event. So, Gary, again, another thing, pass that along, and everything that we did to help that, Kathy and her involvement. So, another great event in Victor. It's great to see.
Yep, Mayor Haddon, kudos.
I just have to say, Gary Haddon, the mayor in the Village of Victor. I live at 70 Latchmere Drive. I got to say thanks to the town board for the cooperation that we got on the event through Kathy and the LDC and so forth, because I think it's another great example that the village and the town can work together. Just like the project out front. Eddie, great leadership on that. Really appreciate it. And Drew, I think you're going to have a great event coming up. Appreciate that too. Mike, thanks for your comments tonight about the access management connectivity study. A lot of really good feedback from a guy that's lived it here in Victor for a long time. Thank you, Jack.
Oh, you're very welcome, Mayor. Okay, moving to business section of this evening's agenda. We have 4 resolutions coming out of the Human Resource Department, starting with number 1, acceptance of the resignation of Travis Thomas, from the Parks Motor Equipment Operator position, and we do want to thank Travis for his service and dedication to the residents of this town for 2.7 years. He's going to pursue a career in education, going to be a teacher, moving out of the area, him and his wife, and going to be a teacher. So we certainly have a shortage of teachers and we need them, so.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 2, acknowledgement of the appointment of Chad Brown to the position of foreman for the Highway Department.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Acknowledgement of the resignation of Dave Knapp from MEO to the Town of Victor Highway Department. And let's see, Dave has been in his position for the past 19 years. We thank Dave for this, and that's all I have on that one.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And number 4 is the appointment of Dave Knapp to MEO, Town of Victor Parks and Recreation Department. Well, he's going to bring a wealth of knowledge to that department.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Economic Development, allocation of funds for the Community Development Block Grant. This is additional funds totaling $29,153 to be allocated for project delivery. And they've had a lot of great momentum with this, and certainly well-deserved. I had the good fortune of delivering a few checks to these businesses, and they said it was a game changer for them, so happy to hear.
Yeah, Jack, in addition, Kathy did a great job with it, the help we got from Labella in managing through some of the process that the state made us jump through some hoops and made some changes to the program kind of midstream. I think they both did a really good job, but it was really gratifying that we were able to help out businesses in our town and village with these grant monies, that we know that a lot of places, due to COVID and through no fault of their own, whether they got shut down because the governor said shut down, you can't have people close, or once we started opening up, you can only open up with limited amount of people to come into your facility, whether it's a restaurant or whatever, some of the places, the stores, just to be able to help them out in this way, I think was very great effort on our part, especially Kathy, to get this to happen.
Thank you for your comments.
And I'll move that one.
Okay, offered by Councilman Kohovic. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Guinan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving to number 6, sewer capital improvement bond resolution. Again, this is, our hopes is to secure grant opportunities, grant funding, and this is part of the process. This resolution is very much needed to be part of that application.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving to number 7, this is after public hearing, and this is again the amending the 180, Chapter 180, Streets and Sidewalks.
So moved.
Second.
Does it have to be a roll?
Oops, roll call, I'm sorry.
Supervisor Marin,
Yes.
Councilman Cusimano,
Yes.
Councilman Guinan,
Yes.
Councilman Kohovic,
Yes.
Okay. Number 8, setting the public hearing for September 12th to introduce a local law to expand the use of video conferencing. This is something that municipalities have to do. Right now, the governor continues to be under executive order, but at some point, if she puts a stop to that, we would need to have this policy in place, local law, excuse me.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 9, approving the settlement of pending tax assessment litigation with... Any interest in blocking resolutions 9 through 11?
Make the motion to block 9 through 11.
I'll second.
Okay, we're going to block 9, 10, and 11. These are all approving settlements of pending tax assessments. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those are passed. Town Clerk's Office, snowplow agreements for the 2022-2023 season. Questions? Motion?
So moved.
Okay. Offered by Councilman Kohovic.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 13, Drumlin, Section 3, Phase 3, dedication and maintenance bond.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And the town clerk needs your signature before you leave. Okay. Number 14, again from the clerk's office, authorization to open a checking account for collection of the Pittsford school taxes. And there are a number of parcels, what do you have, a couple dozen?
no, 128.
What are you doing? They have their own town clerk over there. But anyways, town clerk has identified the need to have a separate checking account. It really makes sense, so.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? To public comment, again, an opportunity for members of the public to address the town board. Okay. Board members, I need a motion for an executive session under rule number 1 to discuss proposed litigation. Town board members and our town attorney, Mr. Frank Pavia, to join us.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anticipate we'll adjourn that meeting following that with no action taken.